Welcome back, race fans, to another episode of Nitro Talk here on Everything Nitro. I'm your host, Andrew Morales, and today we are excited to be joined by three-time Funny Car World Champion, driver of the Dodge Power Brokers Direct Connection Nitro Funny Car, Matt Hagan. How's it going, champ?
Hey, brother. Thanks for having me on the show.
I have to ask, I just have to right away. How do you feel about the nickname Hulk Hagan? Now, we all know nicknames are never something we get to pick, so what's your take on that?
Well, I mean, I definitely am one of the bigger guys in the sport. Obviously, everybody kind of looks at me and goes like, how do you crawl in that little cockpit, man? And, honestly, I get away with it because in a funny car, basically I sit over the rear end, right? If in a dragster, that weight in the middle kind of gets bowed up, so it would be displaced a whole lot differently in a dragster. But in a funny car, when I hit the pedal, that weight transfers back onto the on the rear end, so it kind of plants the tire a little bit harder. So I just tell everybody it's traction control, man. And it just we're planting the tire a little bit. But it's kind of funny. Me and Robert Hyde are two of the bigger guys in the class, and we throw down the fastest 60 foots and some of the fastest times out there. So I'm not sure that any crew chief's going to tell you lighter is better, but to be honest with you, we run faster than some of these guys that are 150 pounds, and so, just my genetics and, trying to play ball, coming up through college and stuff. I've just always been a bigger guy, so it's like, for me, it just is what it is. When I signed up with Don Schumacher, it's not like he signed me up and, I was 150 pounds and then I showed up at 230, you know what I mean? Like, he kind of knew what he was getting when we did that. And just been blessed to have a great crew chiefs over the years that have made a lot of power. And it really hasn't been, so much of an issue when it comes to weight. But I don't know that I would be able to do it in a dragster, because of the way the weight is transferred in this place. But and plus I don't even know if I'd fit in a dragster, so those things were crawling into one of those things is kind of different story. But the nickname is it's cool. I mean, I'll run with it, you know what I mean? I don't think that I'm going to be tearing my shirt off on the top end anytime soon, but it's definitely a nickname that's stuck, it seems like.
If Goldberg could fit in your Nitro Funny Car, I'm pretty sure you could fit in a top field dragster. That's just my opinion.
I thought we were going to have to peel Goldberg out of there, but he definitely fit in there and he warmed it up. So I was like, well, this dude can do it, and he's massive, so yeah, I still got a little growing to do, I guess.
So before stepping into Nitro Funny Car, you were behind the wheel of a 63 Corvette Pro Mod. What was that experience like, and how much did that help you transition into a Nitro Funny Car?
Yeah, I ran Pro Mod for 6 years. I was the AMS Rookie of the Year, and we did a lot of stuff with the Pro Mod stuff. And I used to run around, outside of the AMS series, and do these like quick 8 events, and I won quite a few of those. Just kind of like it's the quickest 8 to show up, and we were these little hole in the wall tracks, and you just had to get your car down the racetrack. It wasn't really who had the most horsepower; it was just who could get down the racetrack, the fastest. And it really taught me a lot about driving and skills and pedaling a race car, and just doing stuff that in a Pro Mod that you're going like, man, that was stupid, but I got away with it, and you learn from it. And it's just a Pro Mod, they basically wreck every run. It's just a matter of whether you hit something or not, but I love driving those cars, and to be able to be in one of those cars. And then I went over to Frank Holly's to get, when I decided I was going to go jump in a fuel car, the cheapest route for me to do that was to go over to Frank Holly's and get my alcohol funny car license and make 5 hits over there for a couple $1,000, and versus spending $5,000 a hit in a nitro car. Wow. Because it allowed me to only have to make like 3 runs in a nitro car after I had my alcohol funny car license. So Frank taught me a lot as far as driving and different things like that as well. And then stepping into a fuel car, man, it was just like, I was like, oh my God, what am I doing here? Like, this is crazy, and it's not something I ever really set out to do, but it was just something that at the time my sponsors wanted me to do. And, and it just fit, man. Like, like the guy told me, he's like, you're either going to come back with a smile on your face from making your first hit, or you're going to come back and piss your pants. You know what I mean? So it's like, he's like, you'll know real quick whether you want to do this or not, and so for me, it was just a natural fit. It felt good. I really, over the years I've learned to, feel the car and listen to the motor and get a good feel for what I'm doing as a driver. And it's just seat time, man. Like, it all comes down to, that's why I like Caps and Force and all those guys are good, because they've had thousands and thousands of runs, and these cars cost anywhere from $5,000 to $7,000 to make a run if it doesn't hurt anything. So it's not like you get a lot of opportunity to practice. It's like you got to get in there and do your job. But I really take every run and break it down mentally, of what I could do different, how that run went, what the motor was doing, how I was taking care of the clutch backing up, how I staged a car. Like, just there's just so much to it that you can break down, that I think a lot of people just go through the motions and they go, well, I made a run and this is what it ran. But there's so many things as a driver that you affect the outcome of that run, which I don't think a lot of people put into perspective. But I think that separates, champions from just average drivers. You know what I mean? Like, when you take the time and put in the extra work to do the mental side of it, to learn and to be a better driver.
So I'm going to jump ahead. There's a question I always ask drivers. Absolute one of my favorite questions to ask drivers. And you mentioned Frank Hawley really helped you out, on the driving side of things. Has there been anybody else in your career? We know Cap's, longtime teammate. You had Beckman, Tommy Johnson Jr. But has there anybody outside of that group of guys that have helped you, kind of coach you behind the wheel, or just kind of gave you advice?
Yeah, Wilkerson for sure, man. Like,
nice.
It was funny. Like, my first time I ever made a pull in a nitro car was, went out and bought Wilkerson's car for a turnkey deal, and I thought I did a great job, and I got it to the end, and he come back and he's like, don't ever drive like that again. He's like, that was awful, and he's like, you did everything but wreck the race car, and I was like, man, I thought I did great, because I then stepped from a pro mod in a fuel car, and I just, I was just behind the car, and it was, sashaying left and right, and I was trying to get with it and be with it and keep it straight, but your mind is just behind it at first, and you're just trying to keep up with it. So there's a big learning curve there. But Wilkerson's always been great. He's a guy that I would model myself after. Like, you look up to him like as a dad, you know what I mean? And he just good, genuine person, and good people, good family guy. And I always have a special place in my heart for Wilkie, man. Like, he's just a good dude, and so he's always comes over and kind of shoots the BS with me and kind of talks a little bit here and there. But me and him, I kind of like got my start with him because I bought his car turnkey when I started at NHRA series, and it was cool. I mean, just to build that relationship there.
And you mentioned the NHRA series. You had some success there as an owner and driver as well, but you make your NHRA professional debut at the 2008 Winter Nationals. Is that something you knew you were always going to do? Go from the NHRA to NHRA?
Well, you'd hope, but it was kind of funny. My NHRA career, with my first year there, we won more races than anybody, so we should have won the championship. But I lost the championship on hold down penalties and being on fire. So I was on fire so much, I really thought it was going to die, man. I was like, it definitely, I earned my stripes in NHRA, I feel like, because like there was moments I was like, this is stupid. Like, I'm going to really hurt myself doing this, because it was just blowing up and on fire. And like I said, we won more races than anybody, but we had more hold down penalties. It cost us a championship to Hagan because we would go out there and catch it on fire every other run, so it was crazy, but it definitely put a lot of stuff in perspective as far as assembling a good team and a good crew chief around you moving forward, and it all comes down to people, man. Like, the success that I've had out here in such a short amount of time in drag racing has been because I've had great people, and that truly is the biggest reason that I am a 3-time world champion, is because of my guys and my crew chief and the folks that they come in and they're early, they work hard, they're motivated, they're driven, they're smart, they're successful with what they do, and it drives you to step up to the plate when when it's all on the line and you got to rise to the occasion.
And for sure, nobody gets there by pure luck. It takes hard work and sacrifice. But at your 2008 debut, your first national event that you qualify for is at the U.S. Nationals. Literally, probably 6-7 races later, you're behind the wheel of a Don Schumacher Racing Funny Car. How did that opportunity come about, and was there a lot of pressure being in that seat as a younger driver?
Yeah, honestly, we crossed over and we out-qualified Forrest, Selzy, and Tommy Johnson Jr. at the biggest race of the year for NHRA, and Schumacher kind of strolls through my pit, and he was like, "Who are you, and where'd you come from?" I guess just one of those things where Gary Selzy at the time was basically, retiring, and he wanted to go home and, be with his family, run his family business, and be with his kids. I think they're, you know, dirt track racing and stuff. And so Schumacher was looking for a wheelman, and you know, I guess it kind of sparked an interest with him. And right place, right time. He's like, "Why don't you sell your junk and come drive for me?" You know, and I was like, "Well, that sounds like a pretty good idea to me." You know, so we did that. You know, and unfortunately, that was 2008 when I signed the contract, and the economy fell apart. In 2008, we hit a recession. You know, and almost a depression. You know what I mean? And so sponsors were, you know, stopping and bailing left and right. And I was supposed to drive the Mopar Oakley car. And Don's like, "Man, I don't think this is going to happen," you know? And so he's like, "I'm committed to you contractually, and we're going to make this happen, but I don't know how yet, but we'll figure it out." And we went out here and found a sponsor called BrakeSafe. This guy's named Rich Battolini. And what a mess that was. The dude bounced a check the second race into the season. And, you know, just a lot of things that happened there early in my career that, you know, I probably might not have been here today, you know, but Don stepped up and threw like, you know, $1 million at it. My family stepped up and threw money at it, and kept me out there, you know, and then we were able to obtain some more sponsorship and keep going. And, you know, my second year I runnered up for the championship. It was such a crazy year for me because, you know, second year driving a Nitro Funny Car, I'm in the hunt with Force, you know, trying to battle for a championship and still trying to learn to drive a race car, you know what I mean? So it just, was kind of wild to me, and not knowing how to, you know, how to handle any of it, to be honest with you. I'm still trying to focus on driving, and I knew I just had to show up and win 1 or 2 rounds, and I won a championship my second year driving this thing, and we didn't do that. You know, we went out first round, and, you know, and then Force had to win the race, and Force did what Force does a lot of times. He goes out there and made it happen. I had, you know, still to this day, I want to throw rocks at Jack Beckman sometimes because he had Force second round, and he had the worst light he ever had in his life. I think he had like a 140 light against Force or something, you know, and I was just like, "Dude, come on, man," you know, but at the end of the day, it wasn't his responsibility. It was mine, you know, and to take him out like that. But just the way it unfolded, you know, they captured me up on top end, you know, kind of like, I guess you would say pouting or didn't want to talk to the media or whatever that was. But, you know, that made, for me, I grew a lot as a person, as an individual, and as a man to be able to process that and take that in. And I didn't know how to really at the time handle a loss like that, you know, but looking back, you know, you got to learn to win well and lose well. And, you know, the situations and the things that you do in life, you know, you grow from them, and, you know, that helped me grow. So, you know, last year you swallow that pride. Caps won the championship. You know, we had an opportunity to win the race, and we didn't, and win the championship. And you go over there and give a big hug, and you know, pat him on the head, and you know, congratulate those guys. And it's tough to do as a competitor, you know, but those are the things that you got to do. And you know, like that early on kind of taught me how to deal with some of that stuff early, you know.
Yeah, and you pretty much answered my next question. You know, how did that experience from 2010 help you grow as a driver? And you just hit it on the nail. As a whole, it made you a better driver, person, man. We might have not seen the same Matt Hagan we do today if it wasn't for that experience. I mean, you were a guy in your second year going against one of the greatest of all times, even at that point. So that is unbelievable. And then of course, John coming back from that accident, you know, breaking his arms and, you know, going through that incident in Dallas 2 years earlier. So there was so much, or 3 years earlier, there was so much riding on that. But I could remember I was probably 16 years old at the time, and I love the emotion you poured out there. Like, this shows this guy cares. He just doesn't want to drive a race car. He wants to be the best. And you had a great 2010 season. You picked up that first career win that year. You also won in Chicago and Dallas. You mentioned finished second in the points. So that has to give you so much confidence moving forward as a driver. Like, I belong out here. You know, I've earned my stripes to be able to put that number 2 on my car.
Yeah, you know, and we end up the next year coming back and winning a championship. I think 2 of the 3 championships I've won, I've run it up the year before. And I think it leaves such a bitter taste in your mouth, no different than this last year, you know, running it up. And you have that feeling of like you're so close and you let it slip through your fingers. And, you know, I don't, it's not that you don't try every year, you know, it's just that taste, I think, lingers around a little bit more. So you kind of like whatever it takes to spit it out of your mouth, man. You know what I mean? Like, it just, you know, you gotta, you know, it just, you don't want that feeling of your heart ripped out again. You know what I mean? So I feel like those years that we've run it up and then come back and won the championship, a lot of it has to do with that awful, sickening feeling of being the loser. You know what I mean? And not, you know, and knowing that you did all the work and all the stuff that get there, but you just didn't do it good enough. You know what I mean? So it motivates you and drives you to do better.
I love what Tony Stewart Racing is doing on the social media side. They're really taking you a little bit more in depth than what we normally see on social media from drivers and teams. And they asked you recently on a post, of all your 3 championships, what means the most to you? Which one, sticks out? And you'd mentioned that 2020 championship. You losing your brother and just bouncing back and wanting to win it for him. And you mentioned your family. Your family's always been a big part of your life, your career, and you owe it all to them, you always say. So kind of talk about, that 2020 championship and just moving ahead, like in your career.
Yeah, every one of my helmets, I keep my brother's name above mine. And, it's just something that, until you go through a loss like that, nobody can ever explain it, or, you can't explain it to someone. It's just, that's the hand you're dealt in life, and you deal with it, and you figure a way to move forward and find peace with it in your own time. And for me, I really wanted to honor my brother, and you can't just always just go out here and just win a championship just to say, hey, my brother passed and this is for him. It just doesn't work like that, So it takes a lot of hard work, and there's a lot of guys that's never won a championship, and there's
right.
that opportunity's never going to be there, and it's just for us, I was just so blessed that it came together, and and I was able to honor him with that, and that's my way of showing, how blessed and how thankful I am for him being in my life and creating those memories and making me the man that I am today as well, and so it was a special weekend, a special moment for me, and you're very blessed in life to be able to have those accomplishments to be able to share that, so those things to me are very I guess sentimental, and it's something that he'll be with me forever. And like I said, as long as I'm driving, I'm always going to carry his name above mine. And it's just one of those things where we, you as a person, you learn to deal with stuff like that. But, for me, it definitely, it's just another chapter in my life that, changed me as a man. And it's something that a lot of us are going to have to deal with, family members and different things throughout your life. You hopefully live long enough to experience some of those things, unfortunately.
Right. And to talk a little bit about that 2020 season, as we could all remember, that was a shortened COVID year. Yeah. We didn't have a countdown.
Yeah.
We go into a 24 race season or 22 race season. All of a sudden it stops. You have this long layover. Talk about that as a driver, sitting out 3-4 months, however long it was, and getting back in that race car, doing the job, and ultimately coming out with a championship with no countdown. I hope nobody gives you slack, or, I hope there's nobody, no Twitter haters or anybody that says, that championship doesn't mean anything, because that championship has to mean more a lot.
There's always going to be haters, man. Like, there's people that love you and love to hate you. And, there's plenty of people that come up and Hagan, and you think they're going to say, hey, good job. And they're like, I hate your guts. You know what I mean? Like, it just, like, there's just those type of people in the world, man. And, if you harp on that, or you live on the internet and hang on to every comment that someone says, you'd never get any sleep at night, man. But, like, people say what they want to say. At the end of the day, we came out and raced as hard as we could race. There was no reason points, and it came down to, we never knew when our season was going to stop. So, like, we knew that there wasn't going to be a countdown, and you had to go out here and accumulate as many points as you could, and which to me was really cool. I love that old school feel, because it was like, hey, we're out here just racing, and whoever wins the most races and accumulates the most points, you get to hold the crown up, man, whenever this thing stops. You know what I mean? So for me, I think we caught a little slack with, everybody's like, oh, Robert and Force aren't there and they didn't race. But, Robert and Force were there last year, and it was me and Ron at the end of the day, you know what I mean? Battling. Right. It wasn't Force and Robert. So, people can say what they want to say, but at the end of the day, they have 2 competitive, really, race cars over there that they do a great job with. But it ain't always the John Force show, man. And, at the end of the day, for us, it's, we're just going out there, keeping our head down and doing what we're doing. And, and I thought it was super competitive last year, you know what I mean? With it coming down to the semifinals with me and Alexis, and, we had to beat her and just win one more round to win the championship, or, and Ron went out, we took Ron out second round, you know what I mean? And we had a real opportunity to win the championship again, and so it came down to me and Caps, like it did last year, the year before that, you know what I mean? So, and Tommy Johnson. So people can say what they want, but at the end of the day, it's racing, man. And whether we're racing, lawnmowers or fuel funny cars, man, like I don't really care. It's like here's what you got, here's what we're gonna do, and we're gonna be the best doing it. You know what I mean? So for me, it's always about just putting my helmet on and doing the best job I can up there.
Right, and everybody was under the same umbrella. There was no special rules that were set out just specifically for your team. Everybody came out to play, mask and all. That was cool. Yep.
It was really cool because it really had that old school feel to it, man. And just you never knew when it was going to end, and you just raced as hard as you could. A lot of these guys during the countdown and stuff during the race season, there'll be a lot of teams that test. You know what I mean? They'll test this, they'll test that. And it's not that those races don't matter, but you got to run hard the last 6, man. And that's, we knew that it wasn't going to happen. So it's like you had to run hard every race that we had that they decided we were going to race at. So it was just a different feel, a different mentality rolling into that season, knowing that, we have a shot at this championship, but we have to run hard every single race because we don't know when they're going to say, all right, that's the last race for the season, because they were just putting them together with where we could be, what the laws were, what the governors were allowing stuff to happen. So it was a lot of racing at Indy, a lot of racing bouncing around here and there. And they were just trying to piece races together wherever they could. So crazy year. But no, it definitely doesn't take anything away from me or in my mindset from what we were doing.
And another highlight moment from your career, not just your championship back in 2011, but you were the first funny car to dip into the 3-second range. Heck, you were the first funny car to go 330. You were the first funny car to go 335. You're the man of stats. You break these records. But take us back to that weekend. You also win the race at Charlotte, ZMAX Dragway. That same weekend you do this. So what kind of memories do you have from that weekend?
Yeah, so a very, very special weekend. ZMAX had put Hagan's way up on the lane, dipped into the threes. We were actually the first ever in the three seconds, 380s, and Robert outran me by one run in the 370s. So we, man, yeah. We came back and did it the next run after Robert did, or the next race, I think, or something like that. But, so Robert got me on the 370s, but we were first ever to dip in the 390s and 380s. And honestly, I was honored to be the driver of the decade, by Auto Week. They just pure stats, man. It came down to who won more races, who won more championship, who won more rounds. And, to be driver of the decade really puts it in perspective of the type of team that we have. It's not really so much the driver of the decade, it's really kind of like the team of the decade, because right. It's all about round wins, and you do that as a team collectively, and what Dickie Venables is able to do and stuff like that. So we're into a new decade now, and we've already won a championship in the new decade and runner up last year. So I mean, our stats are continuing to grow and continue to look good. And to put that in perspective, they'll never be the force of the heydays back then when they were winning 10 in a row. It's just too competitive now.
Exactly.
Those guys back then, they were outspinning and outrunning everybody, and it just, you can't do that now with the rules the way they are. And so that's why Funny Car is so competitive right now. And any Sunday you're going to have a new winner, you know what I mean? And that's just, I love that about our sport, but it makes makes you appreciate those that you do win, because it's so tough to win them now.
And also, you're a U.S. Nationals champion. Did you ever think in your career, I mean, everybody watches the U.S. Nationals, right? Everybody watches the Gators, the Winter Nationals, the finals. Those are some big races. And you darn near won every single race on tour. So talk about Indy in 2016. That a dream come true moment for you?
Yeah, I was so sick, man. It was one of those deals where I had such a bad head cold, and I was running a fever, and the points go with the drivers. So whether you're you got to crawl in your fire suit whether you're pooping your pants or not. You know what I mean? Like it's just one of those things. Doesn't matter how bad you feel. You gotta go. And I was just like, it was one of those race weekends where you're like, can we just get this over with so I can go crawl in a hole and go to sleep? And just be done with this. And we kept going rounds, and I remember the wind light coming on and the parachutes hitting and snot come out of my nose and hit my visor, so it was just like I had such a bad congestion and head cold.
Wow.
And all I wanted to do, everybody wanted to party and drink beer afterwards, and I just wanted to go lay down and go to sleep, but it was just a really memorable weekend, because that's such a huge race to win, but it was just, I felt so awful, you know what I mean? Like I was just so sick, and you're just powering through it and getting through it, you know what I mean? And just trying to be focused for those 4 seconds, and being up on on the wheel and doing your best job you can. And we were able to do that, man. And it was awesome to be able to pull that win down and check that one off in my career. And I've really truly been blessed to be able to accomplish everything I've ever wanted to do in the sport. And it's just amazing to be, this, 10, 15 years into this and be able to say I've checked pretty much everything off the list, so just very, very, very blessed.
And you've had some awesome tuners. I mean, you're probably one of the more consistent guys out there when it comes to tuner changes. I believe you've only had 2 head tuners in your career, right? Tommy DeLago and Dickie Venables.
That's
so
right.
You've accomplished some great things with those tuners. What is that driver to crew chief relationship like, not just at the racetrack, but away from the racetrack? Because you have to have a lot of faith in those guys. And I know you do. You've always took pride and you've always thanked that team and the tuner as soon as you get out of that car.
Yeah, they're everything to me, and being with them and being, having been able to win a championship with both of the tuners that I've been able to drive for has been huge. Tommy Lago is a great guy. He's actually helping Mike Ashley's kid, this year. So with Green tune that thing, and they're doing a good job over there. They've already pulled down a win, and they're both, Tommy DeLago is a talented individual, and so is Dickie Venables, and they all have different personalities, and you have to learn as a driver to work around each guy's personality. No different than my crew guys. You have 10 guys in this group, and you have to make sure everybody gets along and everybody's flowing and working together. So as a driver, I kind of look at it like a football team. The crew chief is the coach, and I'm like the quarterback, and all these guys are linemen out there, and it's just one of those things where you got to make sure your team's up and motivated and working hard and moving forward, man.
So the NHRA world was taken by storm this past season, man, when NASCAR Hall of Famer Tony Stewart announced he'll be a team owner in the NHRA with you in the funny car and Leah Pruett in Top Fuel. How awesome is it to be a part of that journey with Tony and that new formed team, and also getting that first win this last national event in Gainesville, and your first Gator Nationals win. So Tony Stewart Racing, man, when that buzz was coming out and when you first got that hint of Tony saying, "Hey, man, I want you to drive my funny car," what came to your mind then?
That was just amazing, man. Tony's a great guy, and I've learned to, we've kind of become friends over a little bit of time here. And, he honestly is one of those guys. I didn't know how to take him. I've never met him before and didn't know what, if this guy was going to be arrogant or full of himself but just totally the opposite, just such a good guy. And, was very motivated, very driven, very competitive. And he says, look, I want you to focus on driving this race car, and that's it. Don't worry about sponsorship. Don't do anything else. Just come in here with the mindset of winning. And he said, we're going to give you the tools and the parts and the pieces that you need to win. And so far he's done that, man. And, he just, genuinely, I think, loves the sport and likes the rush of the instant power and, everything that NHRA brings to the table. But I hope NHRA really does a good job. They don't miss this opportunity, not just because he's my boss, but just because of who he is and what it's doing for our sport to really promote this. I mean, I think that if they don't, this is like the next John Force stepping over into drag racing, man. And, we really need to showcase this, and we need to pump it up because it's something that's massive for our sport. You don't have guys like this come over every day and spend their money and believe in what we're doing over here. It just shows you how much the sport is growing and have the opportunities that are there. And, I'm just excited to be a part of it. Everybody asks you, they say, why would you leave DSR? You've had 3 championships. You've had, you've got more race trophies than you can put on your shelf. You've set all these records, you've done all this stuff, but change is good, man. It's not that I wanted to leave DSR. It's just that I wanted to see if I can do it with a different team owner. I've done it with different crew chiefs, so it's just always good. It's good for my career. It's good for everything, and it's good for our sponsors. Dodge and Power Broker and everybody else, they're going to get a lot of exposure by being a part of Tony Stewart Racing.
Right. I mean, this transition for Tony Stewart is probably one of the biggest in drag racing history. Kind of takes you back to when Joe Gibbs formed that team, when he purchased that team from Larry Minor back in 95, 96. So this kind of has that same feel, but in my opinion, this is going to be here to stay. I mean, we saw Joe come and go. Tony Stewart, when he does something, he doesn't just do it for fun. He does it because he wants to win. And the team he has with you guys, that's just your proof right there.
I really feel like Tony is enjoying it. He's going to test Monday in Vegas, and make some runs. So I'm always poking at him. I was like, come on, man, drive this funny car. You'll throw rocks at that dragster, you know. But I think he's more on the dragster side of things for now. But just enjoying it and loving it, and you know, him being a part of it and him being excited to be here. Sponsors are really happy. Everybody, you know, we've already got our first win for the team in the season, and you get that, you know, break the ice there. So just a lot of good things moving forward. I'm in a great mental headspace right now. I mean, one of the best I've ever been in. There's no drama in my life. I'm having a good time, and my guys are getting paid and what they deserve. I mean, people don't realize, you know, like last year I gave my bonus up to my guys so that they stay on. I had several guys that didn't feel like they were making enough money and wanted to quit and different things. And, you know, I turned my bonus over to them, you know what I mean? And I said, just stay with me, man. Like you guys have built my trust, and I love you guys, and I need you to be here, and we need you to have you on the team. And money motivates everybody, right? So, you know, I signed my bonus over to them and whatever I was going to make, and, you know, and kept my guys together, and we were able to keep them together and bring them over to the TSR, and they're getting paid what they deserve. And I'm just happy. I mean, everybody's in a good headspace with everything.
That's awesome. One more question before I let you go, Matt. And if the phone dies, I totally understand. It's okay.
I don't have a charger in my truck.
It's all good. It's all good. But let's talk about last year, 2021. I believe it wasn't 2020. I think it was 2020. I'm totally off in years now. But Tommy, you tested positive for COVID right before that U.S. Nationals. And that has to sting. Here you are, you know, top dog in the points. And I believe it was a Thursday when this kind of came out. And Don Schumacher had to scramble and found a driver. Here you are sitting at home. You had to miss 2 events, missed the U.S. Nationals, but unfortunately, your car didn't qualify due to a smallest fraction. And then that very next weekend, the team gets it done. Talk about being home, you know, and just witnessing that. In my opinion, that's gotta, you want to be in that race car. You know, you don't want anybody's name on the side of that car but your own, because you've earned that seat. That is your car. So kind of talk about that experience of just having to sit out those 2 events, but bouncing back in the vengeance that you did.
Yeah, you know, I mean, it's a very, very tough deal. I mean, you know, I'm a big tough farm boy, and I didn't think COVID this or that. I was like, I'm kind of anti-mask, anti-vax, whatever, but I'm just like, live life, man. Like, let's go do this, you know. And it's just one of those things where COVID hit me, man, and it brought me to my knees. It humbled me. I lost 27 pounds. I couldn't eat. I was in the hospital for days. They couldn't do anything with me, and you know, I struggled with it for, you know, we had 2 weeks off before that Indy race, or the race before that. Yeah, it was Indy where they didn't qualify. And I was battling it, man. I was just trying to do whatever I could to get better. I was taking IVs. I was doing all kinds of stuff, and nothing was working. And finally had to throw the towel in and just say, hey, look, I'm not in any physical, mental shape to drive this race car. And I was still testing positive for COVID. And you know, and there was times that I laid in the hospital that I was like, man, I might die. You know, like it's a real feeling when you can't walk to the bathroom and be, you know, and catch your breath. You know what I mean? Like it was to that point where I was like, this is, you know, I've been in crashes and broke bones and, you know, been on fire, and, you know, there was moments where you're going like, this might not turn out the way it's supposed to, you know, and you know, so that mentality of that was really kind of like eye opening for me, you know, and thank God that after I put a press release out, I had a family, a Christian family. They called me up and they said, hey, we have hydroxychloroquine and we want to send it to you. We're not sure how bad you are, but within 2 days of taking hydroxychloroquine and the Z-Pack and zinc, my breathing turned around, my fever broke. I mean, wow. Just everything, man. Like, it was unbelievable to me. And, you know, over here, these protocols that they had at the hospital did nothing for me. And, you know, and they were talking about ventilators and all this other mess, you know, and it just scary, man, you know, and for them for a racing family to send me, you know, hydroxychloroquine over the mail that they got from another country, you know, to help me, you know, was unbelievable. And just, right. You know, and within days, everything turned around for me, you know, and I got to be better, and I got to where I could walk around again and breathe a little bit. And I started pushing myself to do laps outside, and, you know, just unbelievable how crippling and debilitating this was for me, as a guy that I felt like I was in pretty good shape, you know, and so anyway, getting better like that, you know, and then still sitting there watching Tommy Johnson, you know, drive your race car. And God bless him, man. He did a great job. You know, Tommy's a great driver. I mean, he runnered up to me the year before that, and you know, I knew Tommy was a wheel man, and, you know, there was never going to be any issues. And it was a good weekend for Tommy because he was able to honor his dad, you know, in that race.
Right.
When he won. And so it was a very special moment for him. But Tommy did a great job, man. He knocked it out of the park. But it is a weird feeling watching someone else drive your car and win, and you know what I mean? And it just, you know, hear everybody else brag on him, you know, driving your car, you know what I mean? So it's just, it was kind of crazy, but you know, hey, that's the hand you're dealt, man. Life is tricky like that. Life changes fast. It changes in moments, you know, and you know, I was just very lucky to get through it. I was very blessed that the family sent me the medicine that I needed to get better. And, you know, just when in a time where these doctors didn't, you know, wouldn't do or couldn't do, or, you know, had their hands tied to, that wouldn't prescribe that medication, you know? And so, you know, it was just, pretty wild times, but I was able, after 2 races, to come back, and I think we won our second race out after that, and, you know, just battled back hard and just fought to the bitter end. And, you know, there was times where I really feel like COVID kind of cost me my championship, but, you know, it is what it is, and you can cry about spilled milk all the time, but you just clean it up and move forward, man. And, you know, just, that's kind of where we're at with it. But it was definitely a crazy year before that with the COVID racing and the championship stuff. And then coming out last year with, you know, me having COVID and doing all that, and, you know, still kind of try, you know, come back that Charlotte race and not know how this nitro is going to affect my lungs and my breathing and the G-force,
right,
and all that stuff, and the mentality of that, you know, so just a lot going on with that, man.
Well, that's the heart of a champion speaking right there. I appreciate you taking that dive and kind of giving us that behind the scenes, because a lot of people around the world can kind of connect with you and what you're saying, because we all know somebody who's gone through that, or if you haven't, now you do. But Matt, first of all, thank you so much for your time, man. I appreciate you coming on Nitro Talk today, here on Everything Nitro. This was awesome.
Yeah, thank you, brother. Appreciate the time. And just want to say thank you to all the fans, because the fans are really where it's at. The folks that tune in and listen.
Absolutely.
To you guys. We cannot do it without our fans. They're everything to us because they support our sponsors, and without sponsors, we can't do this.